This right here is about the president of Babylon, the head Esau of them all. And he is one big liar. So, you know, it's like watching entertainment, Hebrews. It's just entertaining you. That's all this is, entertainment. We know that none of this stuff don't really matter, because we know the Most High coming back to get us, as it tells us in the Torah, in the Bible. So just watch it and check it out. Just see how evil they are. They some evil people. Check it out, Hebrew. Leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think about it.
That then candidate Trump, despite claims to the contrary, was pursuing plans for a Trump Tower Moscow well through June 2016. Sources telling CNN that Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump both had knowledge of the Trump Tower Moscow plans, and, according to Yahoo News, Mueller has asked questions about their roles in the project. CNN has also confirmed the BuzzFeed scoop that there was talk of gifting Russian President Vladimir Putin with the $50 million penthouse apartment in the proposed luxury building. CNN's Sarah Murray joins me now. Sarah, the president may be thousands of miles from home, but the Mueller probe is apparently not far from his mind or his Twitter fingers.
That's absolutely right, Jake, and it gives you a sense of how these latest developments about this Moscow project could be even more worrisome to President Trump, because they could drag the Trump kids even further into the Russia probe.
Relationship with China. We're going to have a great relationship with Putin and Russia.
The glitzy Trump Tower Moscow could have featured a penthouse for Vladimir Putin and an Ivanka Trump branded spa. Instead, the failed deal is creating another headache for President Trump, ensnaring his children in the Russia probe and prompting his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, to add another guilty plea, this time for lying to Congress, to his roster of offenses. After denying throughout 2016 and 2017 that he had potential business interests in Russia,
I have no deals in Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away.
Now Trump is acknowledging and downplaying the Moscow project, tweeting Friday that he lightly looked at doing a building somewhere in Russia, put up zero money, zero guarantees, and didn't do the project. Witch hunt. The project never came to fruition, but special counsel Robert Mueller's interest in the family business could put the Trump kids under additional scrutiny. As part of his plea deal, Cohen said he briefed Trump family members about the Moscow project, although the plea deal doesn't state which family members. When Donald Trump Jr. testified before the House Judiciary Committee, he told them he was peripherally aware of the deal. Among the project's potential bells and whistles, an Ivanka Trump spa, according to the documents provided to CNN. If the Ivanka branded spa had moved forward, she would have been given sole and absolute discretion to approve the facility plans. So far, Ivanka has not testified before congressional committees. Another potential selling point for the Moscow project, a free penthouse for Putin, valued at $50 million. Felix Sater, who worked on the project with Cohen, said it was an idea considered as a marketing ploy for the Moscow project. Even though Trump said he had no active Russian business interest during the campaign, now he says it only made sense to keep potential deals like the Moscow project in the works, a seeming contradiction to some of his earlier claims.
I was running my business while I was campaigning. There was a good chance that I wouldn't have won, in which case I would have gotten back into the business, and why should I lose lots of opportunities? I built an unbelievable company, but if you look there, you'll see there's nothing in Russia.
Now, of course, it's not illegal for Donald Trump to mislead the American people. The big question, though, is whether in his written answers to special counsel Robert Mueller, those line up with the latest that we know now about this Moscow project and how long discussions went on about it, Jake.
All right, Sarah Murray, thanks so much. Back with my experts. Just to underline this, the president said in January 2017, no deals that could happen in Moscow because we stayed away. Not true.
Not true.
They didn't stay away.
Definitely
That's a lie.
True. Yes, that is a lie. But Sarah's right. It's not a lie to the American.
Not illegal.
It's not illegal to lie to the American people. That said, we don't know what he said to Mueller. We don't know. Giuliani said something to the effect that his written answers match up with Michael Cohen, yet Michael Cohen is a liar who's telling the truth here. maybe we'll see that report someday, and that will make it all clear to us.
Some potential exposure for Donald Trump Jr. and Ivanka Trump, it seems, based on the fact that they were part of the briefings that Michael Cohen says he gave.
They've got to be interviewed. As a former prosecutor, prosecutors love this type of stuff, not just because there may be an inconsistency with what Trump wrote and what Michael Cohen pled to, but this crux, this intersection of business and political interest and whose interest Donald Trump is representing. I think I'm more scared, or Trump should be more scared of what other deals are in the pipeline. Because if he lied about this while he was campaigning and he's still cuddling or coddling Putin, then whose interest is he representing? Are there other business deals? And remember this part. We don't know what Mueller knows. Mueller shows you what he wants you to see, and at the right time, he drops other indictments or charges. And if I was Donald Trump right now, and I know he's a subject, and he knows a subject and possible target of this investigation right now, the walls are closing in, or at least the pyramid prosecution, they're up to here right now, with the top being Donald Trump. They're on their way.
And what's also interesting, in March 2016, in the midst of this effort to try to build Trump Tower Moscow, Trump as a candidate makes the case for easing sanctions against Russia for the annexation of Crimea, telling the New York Times that nobody cared other than the U.S. and that the U.S. was the least affected because we were so far away. So Trump is developing a foreign policy framework towards Russia, while at the same time he's actively pursuing business interests there that Vladimir Putin can make or break. Now that might be legal, but God, that stinks.
Yeah, I mean, here's the whole big question. We are now learning that Donald Trump had extensive business talks with Russia before he was a candidate and as a candidate. So, big question, was there a deal to accept election help from Russia in exchange for policy, meaning in terms of sanctions, withdrawing from NATO, modifying the GOP platform? There's three big buckets of investigations that are going on that all kind of come together because all these people report to Donald Trump. There's the business deals, which Michael Cohen is saying like a bird about and gets to the Trump family. There is the WikiLeaks hack, which Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi were involved with. And then there's the policy issues, which Manafort, because he was an insider, he's a lobbyist, and Michael Flynn, who will be sentenced next month, were involved in. So you have these separate things going on right now, but it all gets back to Trump because Trump is the only person that ties it all together.
And what I find so interesting is what else is going to come down the Mueller pipeline in terms of lying to Congress, because we know a lot of people have talked to Congress during the respective committees of investigations, including Don Jr. himself. And I found remarkable what Richard Burr, the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman, said earlier today. And he said, if you lie to us, we're going to come after you, which is a pretty stark statement from the chairman. And he says the committee has already made a lot of referrals to the special counsel, to DOJ, that they are constantly reviewing the testimony that the committee has taken to see whether it matches up with what they have. So potentially,
and it's that referral that led to the Michael Cohen plea this week about lying to Congress, right?
And Adam Schiff, who's almost certainly going to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, he said they're going to reopen the investigation, which the Republicans on the committee have shut down, and also share, just as Richard Burr, the Republican in the Senate, says he's going to do, or has been doing, and share the transcripts to see if there are others who lied.
Yeah, there's certainly parallel tracks to this and coming from a lot of different directions. But remember one thing. The business interests of Donald Trump are still in play. Remember, he didn't put his business interests in a blind trust. He still owns those companies. He's delegated it to his sons and what have you. But those companies, his companies, are doing business all around the world. We can't forget about that, and I think Mueller is focusing on that as a pathway to get whether you lie or not, because Mueller doesn't like liars, but whether you get to it through these business interests or whether you get to it through whether he's representing his national interests, there's going to be a day of reckoning, if you will. And that day of reckoning is going to come through the Mueller investigation.
And Amanda, you wrote a whole book about how much President Trump lies.
Yes.
Gaslighting.
Yep.
And I want to just remind people, what Michael Cohen says is that they were trying to make a deal for Trump Tower Moscow, and that deal lasted way until June 2016. Take a listen to some of the things that President Trump has told voters.
I don't deal there. I have no businesses. I have no loans from Russia. I have no dealings with Russia. I have no deals in Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away.
Here's where I think the big gaslight about this comes into play. A lot of the appeal of Donald Trump through the campaign for Republicans was that He's his own business guy. He doesn't need to get donations from anybody because he can just run for president, no strings attached. And now we see the whole time he was advancing his own personal interests at the expense of the whole entire Republican Party.
And
he just has different strings. There's still strings.
And Vladimir Putin, at the entire time, could have explained to American voters how candidate Trump was lying.
Confirmed to Yahoo News that the president's eldest daughter, Ivanka, who's now a top White House advisor, and his eldest son, Don Jr., were also working to make the Trump Tower Moscow a reality. And a separate source familiar with the investigation told Yahoo News that Mueller has asked questions about Ivanka and Don Jr.'s work on Trump Tower Moscow. Brings it into the family.
Somebody following this, who's a smart person, said to me that Mueller's strategy is somewhat like the mob, where he may never touch Trump, but he's going after the people he loves. And that clearly is getting under the president's skin. And I think to Evan's point, we don't know how this will shake out legally for the president, but it's having an enormous impact on his presidency. The president is having a lot of difficulty conducting foreign policy while the shadow of this probe is hanging over him. Robert Mueller indicted 12 Russians connected with DNC hacking day before the president left for Helsinki for a summit with Vladimir Putin. In what was arguably the worst moment of his presidency, this Michael Cohen plea deal was announced the day before he left for the G20 and probably caused the president to call off a meeting with Vladimir Putin. That indictment is now hanging over that plea deal is now hanging over another global summit, and it is tremendously affecting the arc of the Trump presidency. And I think the president knows that. He complains that he can't have a foreign policy with Russia while this is ongoing, and I think that's what really gets under his skin about this probe.
To your point, bristling a little bit with Prime Minister Abe, saying it was the basis of Russia's actions in Ukraine was, quote, the sole reason he canceled the meeting, because the suggestion has been he doesn't want to meet with Putin at this moment because of the domestic issues. You're dead right about it being under his skin. Up next for us here, President.